Hi, good afternoon. I'm Antía Iglesias Fernandez, one of the authors of the article Subjective Nature, Graphical Derivations from the Scientific Imprint of Tropical Tree Seedlings through Parameterized Technological Interfaces, accepted as a reflective practice paper for the theme Merging and Methamorphosis in Impact 12 conference. This article was written by me and one of my thesis promoter, Anne Heyvaert. She is a professor and researcher in the DEX5 Digital and Graphic Art Research at the University of Vigo in Galicia. And I am a PhD student and creator in the program of Creativity, Social Innovation and Sustainability from the University of Vigo, a multidisciplinary program where I work with the connections between art and science. It is in this context that we started the experience I'm going to tell you about today. Into the art and science borders. After some reflection, we consider that the function of art and science within our environment is different but complementary. While science aims to obtain an explanation of the world through an objective gaze, art works for creating and evoking sensitive and unexpected perspectives of it. As Ana Soler, one of our group members, wrote, the relationship between intuitive knowledge, art, and scientific knowledge, science, provide new ways of working to construct expanded meanings. It is thanks to be working with both fields that we can pretend to obtain a more complex and rounded knowledge and creations. The starting point for these reflections was the collaborative experience developed by myself and Marion Voisseau, a tropical ecology PhD student in French Guiana, in the Amazonian rainforest. This collaboration took place between September and December of 2021, an evolving time until almost today. Under Marion Project Dryer, we seek for the analysis and representation of 7 tropical tree seedlings, characteristics from the Guyana Amazon forest. The Dryer Project analyzed the effects of drought in the tropical forest by applying several drought treatments in a greenhouse experience. We consider that working along the limits of both disciplines, we could dive rise to processes and results that are capable of modifying our general understanding of the environment. Looking for this, we applied the scientific method to the creation process, specifically focused on the digital biomimetic record, the laser engraving, and the printing experimentation. At the beginning, my position in the collaboration was based in developing botanical drawings of the selective species. After a while working on it, the doubt was pretty strong. Are really gaze and action of the hand neutral? Am I really representing reality? Is it possible to mimetically reproduce the internal characteristics of plants from the perspective of a human eye? As I was working on my drawings and dealing with these issues, Marion was scanning leaves for scientific purposes, and we realized that the record was a common ground for both of us. Those images she was creating were the first imprint of the leaves. It was at that point that we established a scientific method, a systematic and parameterized method, in order to avoid subjectivity and achieve a faithful representation of the plant, in this case, the leaf of the plant. By using mechanical tools, we shift the weight of creation to the technological interfaces, putting distance between artist and creation. It was established a fixed guide for the creation process, where the free will wouldn't have space. This process was, first, the collection of samples at the scientific station of Paracubo in Kourou, second, scanning the leaves in an Epson Profession V800 and obtaining the first image, the direct record of the leaf. Third, applying basic digital adjustments in order to simplify the image and create a footprint scheme readable by the laser cutting machine. Fourth, objectively setting the parameters in the machine depending on the material surface. 5. Finally, direct printing the matrix without ink to avoid external interferences. Through this process, we achieve a comprehension of the concepts of record, scan, and imprint. There were several different ways of naming the images that we were obtaining, some literal, some poetical, and some scientific, but all of them were possible and true. We managed fingerprint and primordial identity, as the leaves we were working with were under the first year of growth, conforming the first identity of the future fruit tree. The images were also a structural map of lines and dots, translated for and by the machine into light and movement. A footprint, a memory of a specific moment and place, and finally, from the scientific point of view, our divagations were a pattern of veins and nerves. As Didi Uberman said, the imprint is nothing but a simple sample, a extraction of reality, a survival of a referent that is no longer there, but is still related with the origin. Once the image is prepared for the laser cutting machine, we obtain the first matrix, an intangible matrix, whose capacities of reproduction and multiplication were already quite interesting. By reshaping and reframing the black and white digital file, we decontextualized the leaf, which was no longer a leaf, but a landscape. The file was then processed by the Earthworks interface, and settings were defined by using a 4mm spine plywood. Depending on the image information, cutting times varied between 4 to 8 hours. At the end, we obtained a physical, tactile matrix suitable to be printed. Along the creation process, there were different states of the matrix that were interesting to analyze. First of all, we had the direct imprint or record of the leaf, created by using the scan. After consciously modifying it, we obtained the intangible matrix, a digital file that could be multiplied and was prepared for being interpreted by the machine. During the cutting process, there were several intermediate or possible matrices, created only by the machine and impossible to be controlled. It is because the laser cutting machine creates a completely different way of cutting each time it reads the digital file. These matrices in movement were really interesting for us, as impossible and possible multiples. After the cutting process, we have the tactile matrix, a physical matrix whose tactile characteristics allow us to think about science in a literal way, by touching it. At the final step, we have the embossed imprint of the leaf, a mold of the internal structure of a leaf created by pressure and access. As Pennone wrote about his frottage, the act of printing, a contact by pressure between surfaces and the exchange of properties between them, allow us to make a tactile reading of the matrix object. As I already said, we decided not to use ink. Instead of it, for printing the matrix, we just used wet paper and pressure. It was because of the process of cutting the matrix by using heat that erodes the wood that the trash of ashes, the vestige of process, create an ephemeral trace that stays together with the embossed and permanent fingerprint. It is this perennial image what reinforces the tactile quality of the embossed image, creating an autoreferential print of what is a literal interpretation of the internal structures of a leaf. Our main conclusion was that through a tactile and tangible experience of a scientific knowledge, we could obtain a more intentional, conscious, and sensorial understanding of our world. By applying the scientific method to an artistic process and using technology for abiding subjectivity and self-interpretation of reality, we achieve a scientific and artistical interpretation and representation of nature, loaded with symbolism and communicative power. I would like to finish with a reference to Enrique Leal, who wrote that technological devices and the innate morphogenetic properties of matter, generating forensic results, making possible a poetic evocation of unprecedented meanings, questioning the subject-object binomial and instrumentalizing the creative process. Thank you so much for your attention, and here you can find our contact information from myself and Anne Heyvaert, and a list of references that I made through this presentation. Thank you so much again, and have a nice day.